not by my hand that I'm once again given flesh.
With Assassin's Creed sailing back in time from the eastern United States to the Caribbean, we began reminiscing about other times when our expectations charged off in a completely different direction. Being surprised by a sequel isn't inherently a good or a bad thing. Sometimes a big change is needed to keep a long-running series running, and other times it's clear that something was lost in translation. Dealing with the subjective nature of surprises, we didn't see a point in ranking these, so we present our most stunning series twists in alphabetical order. Capcom's Breath of Fire series had always been a solid but slightly vanilla JRPG experience, but with Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter, the series truly transformed altogether into an astonishing game that defied not only expectations for the series, but for the entire genre. The grim sci-fi setting deep underground, tactical battles that take place within the environment, and unique gameplay systems were nothing like what came before it. The tension and unforgiving difficulty level evoked survival horror more than Final Fantasy, and though not everyone was a fan, those who got it were not only impressed, they were blown away. Though many may fondly look back at this 1997 PlayStation classic as the very definition of Castlevania, it's also interesting to consider just how much of its cherished legacy came from upturning the one before it. In a stunning turn of events, players did not inherit the sacred charge of the whip-wielding Belmont clan, but instead the personal vendetta of the mysterious Alucard, the half-vampire offspring of the series' perennial villain. With this unexpected family feud came not only a dramatic tale, but an invigorating new dynamic to the series' time-worn traditions. Players traded the lengthy lash of the whip for the immediacy of the sword, demon hunting tools for the arcane arts, and even became that which they hunted in the past with a series of monstrous transformations. No longer were you a stranger battling in a hostile realm, but one of its living, breathing inhabitants out for blood. An empowering revelation that remains one of gaming's greatest twists. FF fans were already thrown for a loop when Final Fantasy X got a sort of sequel instead of the series moving forward numerically. When the series did go to 11, it shocked the masses by going massively multiplayer. Square Enix's involvement in the online arena is notorious now, with 11 lingering on its library of servers for 11 years, and 14 so determined to stay alive it shut its world down to start all over again. But in 2002, the idea of a multiplayer Final Fantasy getting a Roman numeral was a bit of a controversy. Fans are probably still divided on the issue, but enough remained, defending the lands of Vana'diel, for it to keep on growing.
Damn it!
The tagline for much of this franchise reads "Tactical Espionage Action," and fans came to expect a methodical experience that thrived on using stealth rather than brute force. Then out of nowhere, Konami unveiled Revengeance, and it looked more like a hack-and-slash experience than anything resembling a traditional Metal Gear game. Stealth still plays a role, but the game clearly encourages players to confront their opponents in a direct manner by slashing them to pieces in stylish fashion. You can view it as more of a spin-off than a proper sequel, but this likely isn't the last we've seen of lightning bolt action. While Super Metroid is seen by many as one of the best games of its era, it would be 8 years before Nintendo released a sequel, despite fan petition. When first news of Metroid Prime hit, it was met with harsh skepticism. Turning Metroid into a first-person shooter was not what fans wanted, and word it was coming from an unproven American team with internal struggles only rubbed salt in the wound. Thankfully, we were proven wrong. Metroid Prime may have switched perspective and added new elements like scanning objects, but its connected world full of hidden secrets feels thoroughly Metroid. While it ended up being a welcome reinvention of a worn-out series, we weren't sure what to make of Resident Evil 4 for a while. The game went through several facelifts, and when it finally settled on rural Europe, it wasn't exactly clear where Leon was or who he was fighting. What followed was a complete overhaul of not just Resident Evil, but third-person shooters. It was a detour so polished and original that the franchise is still trying to keep up 8 years later. It was that moment in evolution where a species needs to sink or swim, and Resident Evil survived. Where do you go after developing the complex connected systems of SimCity? SimEarth, of course. Where do you go after that? SimAnt? The third Sim title from Maxis may have not been the most natural step forward, but this virtual ant farm has a distinctive charm. Building your colony, gathering food, and fending off threats from both man and nature can be likened to managing traffic and putting out fires, but it all feels decidedly fresh and fun. Plus, unlike SimCity, SimAnt actually has a win state as you survive to expand throughout the yard and drive the humans out of their home. After decimating Goombas, eradicating Hammer Brothers, and finally rescuing the princess, America was ready for more flagpoles, more mushrooms, more Mario. What we got were vegetables, whales, and digging. Originally a Famicom game called Yumi Kojo Doki Doki Panic, it was redressed in the red overalls, but even grade schoolers could see this wasn't following the true path of the plumber. Despite its un-Mario-ness, it was still a great game, and added to the series, giving us Luigi's limberness, Shy Guys, the gender-confused Birdo, and the Ninja, who snuck into Bowser's castle for a cameo in Super Mario World. Spoiler, it was all a dream. With boundless energy and limitless lives, there's just no stopping the Uber Super Mario. But what if you took away all the capes, fire flowers, and mushrooms? It's just the sort of ridiculous premise that the sequel to Super Mario World entertained in Yoshi's Island, an offbeat follow-up that had you relinquishing control of the plucky plumber for the series' Saurian helpers. Halfway platformer and halfway escort mission, it brought an intriguing spin to series mechanics that incorporated such things as reticle-based egg tossing and trippy Mode 7 environments in its whimsical bag of tricks. Unconventional as it was, our hearts go out to the floaty jumps and storybook sprites of this charming detour from the norm. And with Mario back to his present state, here's hoping that Yoshi can find more starring roles on the Wii U and beyond. The follow-up to Link's classic NES adventure took a drastic turn, ditching the overhead perspective in favor of becoming a side-scrolling action game. The Hylian hero learned some new tricks like the ability to jump and cast spells, but perhaps it's the RPG mechanics that caught most off guard. Though it carried the name Zelda, this felt like an entirely different experience, and is typically referred to as the dark horse of the franchise. Regardless, it was a bold change that shook up the established formula, even if it was short-lived.